I would say that if you are not satisfied with growth in your ministry today, and some people seem to be, so limited, right? What we're going to talk about today is probably the number one key to releasing growth. So we need to pay attention today. I think this is very, very important.
Yeah, that's right. Because if we continue to work on the day-to-day activities of the ministry, if we keep ourselves busy spinning the wheels of the ministry, and we never remove ourselves from all of the things, not just some of the things, but all of the things to the point where you have freedom to be away from your church more than one Sunday in a row, where you have freedom to spend time developing your leaders, where you have freedom to work on the plans that are going to move the vision ahead, then you're going to stay capped.
Right.
And a lot of times we get capped not because we don't have the right people around us, but we just kind of refuse to let go. We love working in the ministry, and we won't remove ourselves to begin to work on the ministry for its growth.
So we're talking about a perspective. It's like being inside the box. All you see is the inside of the box.
Yes, that's right.
If we can remove ourselves from there and see the big picture, and like you say, work on the ministry. I don't know who came up with that phrase. It was a fairly famous message a few years ago.
I think it actually was from a business principle too. I remember I think the first time I heard it was from a book, if I remember correctly, called The E-Myth Revisited, which is about how to build businesses so that it multiplies, like the idea of McDonald's as a franchise, right? Because a lot of people, they can open a restaurant, but if you want to really multiply your business, then you have to set it up in such a way where anybody can come in and run with the systems you have in place. But I believe it was that book that taught the key concept is you have to get yourself out of the day-to-day grind of the business to begin to work on how to multiply.
It's a really good way for us to check our perspective, to see if we are just underneath all of the busyness and trying to get things to happen. And I think too, Beck, for me, one of the biggest shifts in my life was when I decided that I was going to have to let other people make mistakes. Rather than insist that I do everything because I can do it right, do it better. Right?
And when you get to the point you know what you're doing, right? So you know you can move things ahead faster. You know you're going to do it better. You know you're going to do it more efficiently.
Right. So the question isn't who's going to do it better. The question is, can you grow or not? Right?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. So then today what we want to talk about is how we can make sure that we free ourselves in order to be able to actually grow our team, grow our vision, grow our leadership skills, those that we're training, and move the vision ahead. And so this is a message for the leaders who want to work on the big picture. If you're ready for that next step, which I feel like in Thailand we are, there are certain things that we want to see happen this year, purchasing land for the school, just a few other things. There's certain things that I have to make a decision to let go of in order to be able to work on the bigger picture things. So today we're going to talk about how to make yourself free. And a lot of times what that looks like, or a symptom or a sign that you're not free is, pastors who feel like they can never be away from more than one Sunday service, or leaders who feel like they don't have time to actually connect with new leaders or disciple and mentor new people because they've got too much administrative work, too many office jobs.
Yeah, and we all know that guy. He can't be away from his church. Or if he is, it can only be for a really quick time. Always, and even when they're away, managing from afar, always on the phone. That is a real hindrance. It's a real bondage. Honestly, it is to growth. It's one of the things that stops growth so quickly in its tracks. And so we need to, first of all, decide that I'm going to be the guy that allows the ministry to grow, allows the ministry to expand by allowing other people to grow.
That's right. We don't want our church or the ministry that you run to become the cap to your capacity, right? I can only do this much because my church needs me, because I have to be in the pulpit preaching every Sunday. And a lot of times the reason why we feel that way isn't actually because we don't have guys that could do it. It's that it's hard for us to relinquish those things, especially something that you've planted from infancy, the baby that you've birthed and now is grown and is healthy and active. It's hard to let that go because that's your thing. But if we really want to move on to multiplication, we have to learn how to let that go.
And it's a shift. It's a huge shift in our thinking. It's like the shift between, looking after your children to now becoming a grandparent, where you can step back. And it's a different relationship altogether.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we have to be willing to give up our control of the small, minute details and let somebody else grow into those things.
Yeah, and even the big things. I think one of the things that pastors, especially preachers, have a hard time with is letting somebody else preach from the pulpit.
Right.
They love it, they love sharing the word. And it's their passion. And so a lot of times we make ourselves stuck because we have so much fun doing it. I don't want to let go of it, but we have to learn to make space for other people and make space for ourselves. So the principle is kind of coming from John chapter 13, where Jesus is washing his disciples' feet. And I just love what he said, because he's actually talking about serving, but it's the exact same principle. He says, "For I have given you as an example," what he just did, "that you should also do just as I have done to you." And the key point is anything that Jesus did, he did as a model so somebody else could do it after him.
Wow, yeah.
And everything that we do, we actually do it as a model so that other people can have the chance to do it after us. And, for some of the stuff like washing other people's feet, serving, those things we do really easily because we see it as a clear example. But Jesus actually even delegated his authority, right?
Right.
All authority in heaven and earth has been given to me by the Father, and now I give it to you, so therefore you go and make disciples of all nations. And Jesus ended up delegating absolutely everything that he was given. And I think that's the big shift in our thinking, is that we have to be able to delegate absolutely everything. It's a tough one. Everything that we're given.
And I think that's totally the issue that nails it, Becky, because the truth is anything that we are not willing to delegate is going to hinder us, is going to hinder growth. So what are some of the things that, like, maybe I'm thinking, right? Reasons why I wouldn't want to delegate.
Yeah.
Like, they're just simple things, right?
They are very simple things, and they're legitimate concerns, but one of the concerns leaders have is a fear of losing authority.
Right.
Losing influence, because it does happen where sometimes you put somebody in charge and then they take the thing over and they take it away from you. There's always a risk when you're training leaders, but I think Victory Asia has such an advantage because we have such relationship. We don't ever delegate to somebody who's not a son, who doesn't view us as a father, right? So I think some of the fears come from seeing what happens on the outside, and sometimes it can happen on the inside, but it's actually really, really rare. If we are actually growing in those relationships, then you can trust, right? You have to be able to have that kind of trust. And we never make a decision to prevent any potential problem from happening. We make a decision to promote growth, right, in the right way.
Yeah.
I also think one of the fears is things being done poorly. It is, you are the guy that's preached for 25 years or whatever. For sure, you're the best preacher. But other guys are only going to get better if you give them the opportunity, because every one of us started from a position where we actually sucked a lot, where we weren't the best at what we did, and you only get better by giving people room to grow.
Yeah, that's right. One of the things that I get a kick out of is being, the ministry here has developed over 40 years or whatever, and I know where we're coming from.
Right.
I'm the dad of this place. I've known every detail from the ground up, for the last 40 years. And then it's interesting when, we'll be in church or we'll be in a conference or something, and like one of our things, some event that we're doing is Victory Asia, and people will come in and they don't know who I am.
Right.
And I love that because they don't have to know.
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
That I'm the guy that instituted it or started it way back. And I just really enjoy that idea of being able to be okay with the fact that, hey, I don't want the recognition. I want everybody in the whole entire ministry to grow up.
Yeah, that's right.
In their gift and their calling and their.
And I think that attitude is there because we all recognize that this is actually God's kingdom. It's actually His thing, right? It's not Al's kingdom, Terry's kingdom, Pastor Rich's kingdom, Pastor Peter's. Every one of us has that attitude where it actually all belongs to God.
Right.
So we're not the kingpin. We're not the guy that has to wear the crown. And it's a beautiful thing, which is also one of the reasons why people have a hard time with releasing, is because sometimes there's a fear that somebody's actually going to do better. They're going to get more recognition, right?
Yeah.
You're the guy that's plowed for 20 years. Suddenly somebody else comes on the scene and people come in and go, wow, that guy's amazing. Look what they've been able to create. Look what they've been able to produce. Yeah. But that's something we have to just deal with in our own heart. It's not
I
about
think
the
too,
credit.
that's if a leader feels like that, he has that concern that somebody's going to do better and it's going to make him look not so good, then the people that he's talking about releasing to are not his sons and daughters.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, when your kids do well, there's nobody prouder.
That's right.
Right?
It's true.
But if a guy was like, I'm not happy when you do well because it makes me look bad, there's a real problem there with the relationship.
True. Yeah, that's a very good point, Dad. I also think one of the other struggles that leaders run into is having the time, right? It's easy to say you got to let go, you've got to release, you've got to delegate. But finding that time, especially when you're the guy that's doing the day-to-day jobs, to begin to release is difficult because you can't just throw a job at somebody and not prepare them for it. So it does take time. And that's why sometimes you have to have a plan. What are you going to start with delegating first? Who do you have that's in your team that you can train on the things that already has a level of skill? And that's what we're going to get to, how to know when to release and who to release to. But finding time is very, very challenging, but you have to do it if you want to move ahead.
Yep, and that's the difference between working in it or working on it, right?
Yeah,
If we're working on the ministry, then we've got time. We find that as a priority. Decide that's a priority, choose it's a priority. And then we can see the way ahead by developing and investing people rather than trying to get the work done.
That's right, yeah. And then one other concern that we have listed here is that sometimes leaders like having others dependent on them. You know, it's kind of like that parent that loves having that kid around that really needs them because it makes them feel valuable. But in the end, you're actually stunting the growth of that child and you're limiting your own ability to. So we love it that people need us. We love it that they rely on us. But we're actually not supposed to keep them there. They need to move beyond that. We need to move beyond that.
Yeah, if that's a need in your life, get a puppy dog or, one of those little rat things or something.
A hamster.
Hamster.
Don't take a lot of work. That's right. So then in order to move into the part where you begin to release, I think the word that we're actually talking about here is delegation, right? Where you actually give over what it is that you do to other people. So we're going to talk about the stages of delegation. And if you want to take notes, this is where you can begin to write it down. Is the first stage is number one, you've got to assign. You've got to find the person that is going to do the specific job. Sometimes when we start to delegate, we try to delegate to a team or delegate to an area of ministry, and it doesn't work like that. You can't delegate something to the worship team. There has to be a worship leader, one person who is in charge of that. So the first step is to assign. And the second step is then you have to give authority. And so when you give the authority for that job, then you don't come back and short circuit the decision-making process, right?
It's a huge one.
Yeah, I've done this myself.
Well, and it hurts.
Right?
It hurts people that you delegated this to me and now you're taking it back. And usually it's taking it back, didn't even talk to me about it, just pulled the rug out from under me. Boy, I tell you what, that really demotes, disenfranchises the people that you're raising up. So it's very, very important that we give, extreme amount of attention to that and make your decisions as, am I taking this back? What do they feel? And I think that's a good question to ask ourselves always, is that self-awareness in what do the people that I'm delegating to, what are they feeling? Right? How are they responding? What am I doing that might be more of a hindrance than a help to them?
Right. And I think sometimes it happens by accident too,
Sure.
Like I can think of times where I've cut in and I've short-circuited somebody that I've delegated to, not because I was trying to do it, but somebody else came to me with a problem and said, this isn't working, so then I just made a decision, not including the other person who should have been the one who was making the decision, right? And then they find out afterwards. And one of the biggest signs as a leader that you're doing this to people is that you lose the people who were passionate about helping you in the beginning, right? The guys that were always like, we're going to do this new thing. And they're like, put their hand up, count me in, put me in, coach, or whatever. Those guys start to say no. Or even when they do say yes, they kind of have their walls up. They're not as passionate, and you can see it in people's lives. Like the guys who used to be so on board with helping, and now they're still there, they're still faithful, but now it feels like pulling teeth trying to get them involved in something. It's not because they've lost their passion, just naturally because they've lost their love for Jesus or something like that. Most of the time, it's actually happened because we've short-circuited them. We've given them a responsibility. We've taken it back over and over again. And it just it kills creativity, it kills passion, it kills willingness, it kills excitement. And then we're wondering, why does this person who used to be on board, how come they're now kind of like,
So
nervous?
If you're surrounded by people who are not passionate, it's not them, it's you.
Yeah, especially if they used to be passionate, right?
Yeah.
And I see it a lot, and it really breaks my heart because, you have people that are willing, they're ready to go. And then we disempower them
Right.
over and over again.
Yeah.
And so as a leader, it's something we have to actually look at seriously, because you will quit, you will stop people from wanting to follow you if that's what's happening.
And they will actually find another way.
They will.
They'll find another path.
Yeah, that's right.
That'll happen. So
Yeah.
very important. Be self-aware, man.
Yeah.
Like what am I doing to people? How are they feeling when they're
Yeah.
around me? And
That's right. So then the third stage is provide accountability. And this is where we sometimes get it twisted, because we think that providing accountability is when we come in and we say, here's how you do it. Here's how I would do it. No, don't do it that way, right? That's where we begin to short circuit their authority, because we think it's accountability. That's not what the accountability is. The accountability isn't I'm checking over your shoulder to make sure you're not missing anything, that you're doing it the right way. The accountability is checking in on the leader and saying, how are you doing?
right.
Is there any support that you need from me? Are there any challenges that I can help you with? And if you don't need the help with them, go for it. So the accountability isn't, are you doing it right? The accountability is, how are you doing? Do you need any more support? That's what the accountability is,
Yeah,
right?
that's good. Yeah, we're not trying to catch people doing something
No,
wrong,
that's right.
right?
Yeah.
We catch them doing something right and build that up. Of course, then you'll get more
Yeah.
repeated of that, of the positive things. But that's so true, Becky, is that when we can make our young leaders or the people we're delegating to feel like we have their back.
Yeah,
We're
that's
not
right.
doing something behind their back. We
Yeah.
have their back, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm here for you. What is it that you need?
That's right.
And that's a really good way to see where they're at too. To ask them that, like, what do you need? How's it going? You know, what can I do to help? That's a really good way to find out what's going on.
Yeah. And when they come to you with a new idea, don't reject their idea in favor of our own. Well, we've never done it that way, or I'm used to doing it this way, or I think this way is better.
Oh yeah.
When you're asking, how is it going? And is there anything I can help with? When they give you something, don't just shut it down, right? We've got to be so careful, because how we respond to people that we've given authority to, especially when they're new in the game, is either going to empower them and give them the ability to do more, or it's going to decrease them and make them want to say no next time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too that there's no bad ideas,
Yeah.
but they do need to be sorted through. And a lot of times I get great ideas by somebody else's great idea that wasn't so great or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it always triggers something, right?
That's right.
It always releases something. I think, I don't know how well we're doing in this, but I am so determined always to change things up,
Yeah.
to never, you know, always leave room for more creativity and always get other people's ideas and let's try something new.
Yeah.
Whereas it's a rut that people can fall into, that it worked like this before, we just keep
Yeah,
doing that.
that's right.
That's a, well, what do we call a comfort zone,
Yeah.
really? And we can come out of that. And so, yeah, doing something to trigger new ideas. And we do that all the time too, I think, too, you know. Just thinking yesterday you were in Bangkok, you know, checking out the venues for the
For Summit.
summit.
It's going to be awesome.
I mean, it's exciting, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
it
it
just gets the stuff going, right?
Yeah, that's
the
right.
creativity and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And you got a few different venues to choose from now, and this one's got this and this one's got that. Well, ideas come,
Yes.
right? Because of what you see and what you heard and what you
Yeah.
did, what you visited. And so that's another thing too. If you want to work on instead of in, get out of the box.
Yeah.
Go do something different for a day or whatever, and take a look at what other people are doing. Go to a conference somewhere
Yeah.
that you've never been to before.
Yes, it's good.
That kind of thing
Yeah,
really helps.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fourth step of the releasing yourself from all of your daily tasks and responsibilities is to affirm people. I think one of the things that we forget, and I do this too, is that people actually need encouragement. They need, like,
Right.
you're doing a great job, and thank you for taking this on. And, you know, sometimes because people are doing so well, we think that they're all good, you
Right,
know?
right.
But just providing that extra job well done goes a long way, because people don't know that you think they're doing a good job
Right.
unless you say it.
Yeah, true. That's a very easy thing to just assume.
Yes.
Even in your marriage, right?
Yeah, that's
like
right.
always with your kids, with your wife, your spouse, whatever it is, people that you work for, because not only that, but again, they will reproduce the things that you give praise to, right? And I think as well, I've just found that if there's no, like, man, you did a good job on that, there's really not much of a relationship
Yeah.
there. It's a really, they feel like it's a really shallow relationship
that's
because you're
right.
not even paying attention, right?
true.
And the truth is, we are always looking for, not accolades, but we're always looking for people to confirm to us, right, that what we've been doing is good, or what we've done was good, or this was good, or that was good. You know, we'd come to the end of Summit, and so we talk about is how amazing it was, and how amazing this was, and that was, and you know, and it just builds the whole thing up powerfully.
That's right.
So.
Yeah.
Well, let's just kind of put this one in the burner for now, and again, not just Micah, but everybody take notes. We appreciate you, Micah. Your notes that you send back, so awesome.
Yeah.
But really, if you get one idea, two ideas, three good ideas out of this that will help you grow your ministry, it's worth it. And a lot of times it's not stuff that you've never thought of before, never heard before, but it's like, you know what, I've kind of let that go. I've kind of let that slip. I need to get back into that again. I need to get back into telling my people how well they're doing. I need to get back into seeing if they need any help from me, you know, all those kind of things. So we want the ministry to grow for the sake of the kingdom, but also for your sake. It's just way more fun when everything's growing and it's exciting.
Yeah, that's right. And so this is just a change in mindset that we need, but there is a second part that's coming up that we're going to give some really practical, very, very clear directions, how to delegate, who to delegate to, so that it doesn't become a headache for you, but it actually helps move you ahead.